thank you very much for stepping in. It was a last minute for you, but we're very thankful.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So Jeff, why don't you carry on?
All right, thank y'all. Mike, really good morning to you. How are you doing?
Fantastic, Jeff. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And again, been following the progress of Cassie, and I know that she's doing better every day. And this is one of those situations where, you know, Marcus needed to go with her. So we wish her well. And we're going to miss Marcus, but man, I'm excited about having you here. And I mean, I know you're right there with Marcus every time you turn around. So when I say something like, you know, when you think about 2022, as far as being a positive and momentum year, you guys experienced it in more ways than one.
Yeah, it it all kind of blends together. It's so interesting trying to kind of keep everything in sequence, because we're constantly looking forward, and sometimes I get my years mixed up, and COVID obviously didn't help with any of that. But 22 was really a great year when you look at it for the sport as a whole, and remember going back and feeling that energy of the Coliseum, and starting the season and saying, wow, look at this, something totally different and new, and knowing a lot of the things that we put on the schedule with NASCAR. We shook things up a little bit. I go back to looking at, everybody looks at Ross Chastain's great move at the end of the year, but really he kind of burst on the scene at Circuit of the Americas, and we'll not forget that pass he made in that last lap to win that race was really a highlight. And then going to Atlanta, it was, again, one of those things where you look back, and that started probably 18 months before that first race last year, when we sat down and thought, how do we make something new and different and special? That's something that Marcus has carried on from Bruton Smith's legacy, is how do we do something great for the fans, and working with the folks at NASCAR and the folks at iRacing to kind of reprofile and come up with a wholly new track type, and seeing it come to life at that first race at Atlanta, and seeing the great racing we had there was certainly a highlight. And then personally for me, just the event we pulled off at Bristol, taking the dirt race, which had already become a big event, and the folks at Fox coming to us and saying, what if we took Easter and made that into a tent pole for NASCAR, much like we just saw with the NFL on Thanksgiving Day, and what the NBA is trying to do at Christmas. Fox said NASCAR could really own Easter, and that was something that was a little bit outside the box as far as racing on Easter. But as believers, we also knew what an opportunity to get the true meaning of Easter out to a wide audience. And the folks at Fox came together, and the whole industry came together, said, we're going to make this into a big event. So had a great pre-race celebration of Easter before the race, and then the racing itself was fantastic. And Kyle Busch kind of coming out of nowhere to win that race was another highlight. And then a great Coke 600 with Denny Hamlin, finally winning that one, and the chaos and the craziness. And we hear a lot of pushback on the length of races, but when you have 600 miles of racing like we had for the Coke 600, you want even more. And then at Sonoma, and the reinvention that Jill Gregory's leading out there, and seeing Daniel Suarez win his first race was fantastic. And then we also we had the chance to finally host our first races at Dover and at Nashville Speedways. We took over ownership there last year, and then the playoffs were fantastic. It's my favorite time of the year, just the tension and the drama, and we're fortunate to have 4 races there, and Bristol being a cutoff race, and the Roval always great racing there, the tension, and then swapping Vegas and Texas to give our race fans at Vegas a little relief from the heat, moving that race back a little bit in the calendar. We had a great race there, and of course we had a new general manager at Texas Motor Speedway, and did a lot of remodeling there, and now we're looking forward to see how do we continue to evolve that, because Dallas is such an important market. So it was just so many great racing moments for the whole sport, and we were lucky that a lot of them happened at Speedway Motorsports facilities.
Yeah, and the thing is so funny is that we've already got a question from Tom Weisenbach, and he said, hey, appreciated you jumping in and subbing for Marcus. But can you touch on how Kevin Camper and the SMI sales teams are having to adjust their sales effort times have changed, definitely, and changing marketing partners and everything like that, the broadcast partners, and dealing with NASCAR. I mean, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It's, we're always thinking about what you can see when you get to the track and what's going on out on the track, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on to run an organization like SMI and run these tracks.
Yeah, and as I was listening on the previous session, even with the teams, everything in the sport, money is really the engine that drives all this and allows us to do everything that we do. And if you don't have funding, then it's really tough to put a competitive race team on the track or to host a world-class event like we do, every week for 38 weeks in the sport. And we're fortunate to have 15 of those at Speedway Motorsports venues. But I cannot say enough about the effort that Kevin Camper and our corporate sales team has put and the results they've achieved. We had a tremendous year. They were up double digits. We just had a celebration 2 weeks ago here in Charlotte where we recognized our sales leaders and the game has changed there. And we've always really focused on value and relationships. And we were able to, even through COVID, when we weren't able to deliver fans in the stands, we were still able to deliver value to our partners. And that really came out of having good relationships with them and being in constant communication and understanding what does success look like for them and helping them achieve their goals and always thinking about how do we use the assets that we have to deliver value to those sponsors. And the days are gone where it's just measuring kind of the impressions on a billboard or on the hood of a car, the old Joyce Julius numbers or the Nielsen numbers. Now you really have to try to understand your corporate clients' businesses and think about how do I help them achieve those goals, and whether that's having a great entertainment experience at the event or whether that's engaging with fans out in the midway, or it is getting exposure for their brand. How do you maximize that? So because of the relationships and the trust that we've been able to build with our sponsors, you look across our company, and we've been in business for Bruton Smith. If you Google his Hall of Fame speech, it was a love letter to Coca-Cola. And we've been one of Coke's longest partners, and the folks at Food City and their support for Bristol Motor Speedway and our friends out at Save Mart in Sonoma. We've got so many decades-long partners, and that's because they trust us to help them drive business. So it can't be transactional anymore, and you've really got to invest the time and effort to understand how to deliver value, and then understand the ways to deliver that value, especially today with social media. There's so many great ways to connect your audience with the potential audience of your sponsors and really help them deliver value. So Kevin and his team have been out the forefront of that, spending the time, traveling, going, meeting people, understanding their business. And then we're fortunate to have great facilities and great teammates that deliver, a great event when people actually come to the track. So there's nothing better than getting a sponsor or a corporate client to the track, letting them experience just the spectacle that NASCAR racing is, and helping them see their program come to life. So Kevin and his team have really done a great job. It all comes down to building those relationships and understanding what value looks like to your partner, and thinking about how can we deliver that with the assets that we have.
When you brought up social media, and I know, at least in my world and looking at it from my vantage point, it has got to be one of the most cutting edge ways to get messages out there. But it also is probably one of the most dangerous mediums that you get into if you're not careful. Because if you put the wrong word or move a point wrong way, exclamation point, or whether you put a period or a comma, it can create a problem too. How do y'all handle that? I mean, do y'all have a special department that you've now brought in and put in place to cover all the SMI?
No, we've definitely have invested more in people to create content, and that's something that you have to do, at the Speedway level. And really, it comes down to, we talked about the building the trust with partners. It's also about building trust with your teammates and helping everybody understand what's important to our company and what's important to our sponsors, and really making sure that you have good people. And I don't mean good like they're talented, but they understand what we're trying to do. And that's to communicate with the fans and kind of looking past a lot of the noise that gets out there and recognize that in some ways that social media isn't really true. It isn't really reflecting what's important to important people. And for us, the important people are the fans that actually spend their time and money to come to the track. And a lot of the noise, a lot of criticism, and a lot of the negativity we have found come from people who have zero investment in the sport. They don't come to races. They don't really even watch it on TV. They just like to engage in the noise and the turmoil. So it's much more impactful for us to get feedback from somebody who has actually spent their money, spent their time, made the effort to come to a race. And when they have feedback for us, we want to hear that and respond to that. So we really look at social media. It's a great way to show people what coming to a race can be like, with the fun, all the activities we have going on. We've invested a lot in the fan experience, so making sure people understand that. It's also a great customer service tool. When somebody who is at the event does bring up something that needs to be addressed and can be fixed, we certainly monitor for that. But it's also important to realize that, as we've seen, as we made a lot of quote unquote controversial changes and gotten a lot of, especially as we were moving through dealing with issues like the Confederate flag and changing some of our policies there, that's when it really came to light that a lot of the people who had the loudest voices or showing the most anger on social media really had no impact on our business because they weren't actually our fans. And if you go to any of our ways around the picture of our chairman with a wording under it says, "We work for the fans." I think it's always important to remember that that's who we're here for. So you want people with good hearts. We're in the fun business. Sometimes delivering that fun can be challenging, but making sure that we don't take things too seriously. And we certainly make mistakes, but learning from those mistakes, showing grace to our teammates, accepting responsibility. We do make mistakes, saying, "Hey, we messed this up," because if you're not making mistakes, you're not pushing the envelope. But I think people have respect for us. They have respect for what we've built. So I think they always assume the best, or we want them to assume the best. And those people who probably don't really know us, so we're not really that bothered by it. But we're always looking at how do we make sure that we are communicating well with the fans and showing them and giving them reasons why they want to come to the track.
Like your answer. Before we move on, I got two questions here I think we'll address first. Dan Hamby would like to know, you got the Roval. It's a good venue. Everybody loves coming there now. They've finally got it figured out, putting on good shows there. But have you ever considered a 12 or 24-hour race using NASCAR teams with only one car and multiple drivers?
Well, I think if you ask Ben Kennedy or Steve O'Donnell or Steve Phelps or Jim France, they'll tell you we've considered a lot of things. We throw a lot of things at the wall. And what fans and again, what people in the industry probably realize is that it's not any one individual group that makes these decisions. We don't unilaterally decide at Speedway Motorsports we're going to do something. NASCAR does a great job of sanctioning the races and setting up the competition. The teams have to participate, and all these decisions have real world impacts financially, how people allocate resources. So anytime you want to try to do something differently, you have to make sure that you understand, what does this mean for all the other people who are involved in this sport? What does it mean for our broadcasters? What does it mean for NASCAR? What does it mean for the teams? What does it mean for the drivers? What does it mean for the fans? So we throw a lot of ideas out there and sit down, and fortunately, all the groups I mentioned have never been more closely aligned than they are now. So there's a willingness to try new things. And the other thing I think people aren't always fully willing to admit that most ideas are not permanent. I tell my kids there's not a lot of one-way doors in life. You can always walk back through, and we try a lot of things. And if something doesn't work, then we're not going to do it. But we're going to try it and see, and we're going to learn from it. But the things that do work, we're going to do more of. So we're constantly thinking about how can we do something new, something different. And those examples mentioned. It's not the first time that the things like timed races or how do we do something different has comes up. I think you'll continue to see the sport evolve as we move forward.
Okay. And Bruce Martin wondered, is there anything that SMI has, on the table to boost attendance for the IndyCar at Texas? We used to draw a huge crowd. And also IndyCar, he feels like needs more ovals. And is there any discussion about IndyCar coming back to Kentucky Motor Speedway?
Well, I'll tell you that, again, Roger Penske purchasing IndyCar was just, a tremendous blessing for that sport. And we've been involved in IndyCar to a variety of levels through the years. And the IndyCar race coming up at Texas Motor Speedway in next year in 2023 in late March, early April is going to be one of the biggest events, for that speedway. They've got two big events to focus on, that IndyCar event now and their playoff race. And we want that IndyCar event to be the most successful event that they have on their schedule. Outside, we want it to rival the 500. If I'm going to be really selfish, I know it'll never get there because of the history. But obviously, the Dallas market is incredibly important. NTT, the title sponsor for IndyCar, is based in Dallas. So we have been working more closely than ever with Roger and with Mark Miles and Jonathan Gibson and Michael Montry. We've made it very clear to our new general manager, Texas Motor Speedway, Mark Faber, that having a successful IndyCar event is critical as we go forward in 23. So we're putting a lot of focus on that. We've brought in an agency just to focus on that event. Again, the reality of Speedway Motorsports is that there's almost always something going on somewhere around the globe. So we've got the race at Circuit of the Americas the week before, but we can't let that effort diminish the focus we need to put on that IndyCar race in Texas. So we had a great race there this year, which I think is the most important thing when you're looking about how do you build momentum. First and foremost, it starts with having great racing. So we had a really good race there this past year, and that's something that we can build on, and we're looking to take another step forward. But having a successful IndyCar event at Texas is important, and if we can figure out how to do that well, then it opens up the opportunity to bring IndyCar back to more of our ovals at more of our facilities.
You've touched on the races at your facilities that kind of got your attention early on in our conversation, but how about what you've been doing in 2022 as far as chumming the water for what's getting ready to happen in 2023? And I'm talking about, the fact that we had a revival up at North Wilkesboro, and it was a huge success, so much of a success. Now we've got an all-star event coming up there and a ton of work going on. And having been up there and seen a lot of it myself personally, unbelievable. And the synergy that's coming out of that is remarkable. And we'll stop there because I got another place I want to go after, but I want you to just focus on North Wilkesboro and the All-Star event.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fantastic just to see the energy. And again, when you go up there, and Jeff, you've been up there quite a bit, you see how important that facility is to that region, to the people of Wilkes County, to the people of North Wilkesboro, and just seeing the joy that revival brought back. And really that doesn't happen really without the dirt race at Bristol, because that introduced us to Barry Braun, who hosted a lot of the dirt events before and after. The cup race got all the focus, but what really made the dirt race at Bristol work was the fact that we were able to bring in other series before and after that to maximize the use of the dirt while on the track. So Barry really is the one who said, let's go over to North Wilkesboro, and I'd love to run some events there. And obviously, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his supporter for the event. And again, going back to iRacing and wanting to preserve North Wilkesboro for iRacing, that's probably where it really all started. And we all went up there and got weed whackers out and kind of trimmed the place up just so they could scan it. And then it went from scanning to Barry saying, let's host some races there. And then Dale Jr. saying, well, I want to race in one of those. And it was really the night that he raced up there. And we had, 20,000+ people there, and the people were so happy to be there. And I mean, in the facility, it was just, we had to bring in, porta johns and food trucks, since there's really very little supporting infrastructure there, but people were just happy to be at the track. And that's really when we said, you know what, we haven't quite figured out where we're going to go with the All-Star race in 23, but if we can accommodate this many people and they can, do it and have this much fun. It's the 75th anniversary of NASCAR. I mean, what a great opportunity to come back and have one more race at the old North Wilkesboro. And you touched on it in the earlier session. Even when this will really be a throwback race, because this we won't really have even started on the full remodeling that we're planning to do. And, this will be a very throwback feel to it. It won't be the facility it will be in 24 or 25, but it will be obviously the racing surface and everything we need for the teams and the fans to have a safe, fun race will be there. We'll have a lot of the infrastructure in terms of running water and electricity and connectivity and things like that. But it really will have that feel of a classic NASCAR race. So I think the biggest challenge we will have is letting fans know, hey, this is what this is going to be. This is going to have to be, you have to get there early. You're going to have to park remotely. We're going to shuttle people in. Most of the facility will be used for camping. So there won't be a lot of parking. There's going to be lines. There's going to be traffic, just like it was back in the old days. But if people come with the same attitude we saw during the revival, it should be a great weekend. Have patience, enjoy it, appreciate it for what it is, because it will literally be, you will be seeing history being made, and there will be nothing like it ever again. And the fact that it's the 70th anniversary of NASCAR should be just a phenomenal event. And it's just one part of a whole week of events that we have planned there.
Yeah, it should be unbelievable, because we are honestly returning to our roots. I mean, you think about that racetrack has been laying dormant for cup cars. That's what I'm saying here. So don't say, okay, well, they had this and had that. I know they had other series, but they haven't had a cup race since 1996. And they're running on the same asphalt that was down then and had been down for quite a while. So, I mean, that's a really going back to your roots, if I've ever seen it in my history. Okay, it's going to be awesome. It really is. Kristen would like to know, she's kind of, I guess, trying to develop some drivers and athletes and teams. She was wondering about how can the industry, I think she's talking about, the racing industry as a whole, with their new corporate partners and like that, how can they help these organizations with the increased cost to all motorsports and power sports, that's each and every year they keep going up. I mean, how do you sell that? I think is probably what she's asking. And like I say, it's not an easy sell, no matter who you are. I don't care a darn if you're Richard Petty and Jimmy Johnson. It's not going to be an easy sell.
No, not at all. It's in a lot of ways we have to. How do we save ourselves? Because the racing business is all about speed, and that's largely determined by money. So you want to take every dollar that you can gather and figure out how can you use that to make the car go faster. But I think at some point you also have to figure out, how do we deliver, again, going back to when I was talking about our corporate sales team, how do I deliver value back to a sponsor? And the fact that I need X dollars to field a competitive race team isn't really a great argument when you're talking to a sponsor that they need to pay X because you need X. They're going to be willing to pay you X because you're going to deliver something that is more valuable than what they're giving you. I mean, that's ultimately what sales is, just an exchange of value. And the best deals are when both sides feel like they got more than they gave up. So you really have to think about what assets, what resources, what can I deliver to a sponsor aside from just the traditional measurements of exposure. And that's where we go back to things like social media, I think, become even more important, and developing followings for these young drivers and developing loyal audiences that they can go and say, hey, I've got this audience of X number of followers. I can get your brand, get your message in front of them. I can help, introduce your product to my audience. And you look back to the sport, the example I was thinking about is Travis Pastrana. And when he was racing the Xfinity Series, and a lot of that was driven around the fact that at the time he had like 100,000 followers on social media, and that was a huge exposure opportunity. So that contributed as much to his funding as his driving skill, was the fact he had this whole audience that he was able to deliver. So how do you continue to develop those opportunities? How do you really spend time with your sponsors to help them figure out, what do they need? What are they trying to achieve? And what can you do to help them achieve their goals? And I think you're going to see athletes at all levels, that's going to become an increasingly important part of how they make a living, that at some point the compensation they make as an athlete gets capped. And I'm not sure how much longer we'll see the kind of contracts that we're seeing. And certainly motorsports has gone through that at the high level. And more, the value will be driven by the relationships kind of outside of the competition and the value outside of the competition. So really understanding all the assets that you bring to the table. What exposure do you have? More and more of these events are being streamed. And we do a lot of this and look at a lot of this through our US Legends program, where a lot of these drivers get their starts. And we try to make it as affordable as possible. But even at the Legends, it may only be $13,000 or $14,000 for the car, but then you have the travel costs and everything, and get expensive even to start out. So thinking about are these events being streamed? How many people are watching there? How many people are attending these events? But you're going to have to work outside of the Saturday night racing that you're doing to deliver value to your sponsors. But it really goes back to understanding why are they interested and how can you help them achieve their business goals. And those are the types of relationships that can kind of travel with you as you move up the ladder, starting small. But how do you build an audience I think is the biggest opportunity that most motorsports programs have, from entry level all the way up to the cup side. If you can build an audience, then you have something valuable beyond just your performance on the track that will help you deliver for a sponsor.
Good suggestion. We got just a minute or so here. I want to try to get one last question in here. Clay Harshaw was wondering, what are your thoughts about having a multiple day speed festival at Charlotte? 1 or 2 weeks of NASCAR on the oval, Indy and IMSA on the roval, World of Outlaws, American Flat Track on the dirt, and the NHRA at ZMAX. I mean, just have a throwdown like none other. I mean, and that's the one beautiful thing about the Charlotte facility. You can accommodate all of them.
Yeah, we try to do that. The reality of having oval and roval competitions simultaneously is probably not possible, just because of the modifications you need to make and the turnover time. You can probably go from oval to roval, maybe do that on the same weekend, have an oval race on Saturday and then do an oval race on Sunday. We try to utilize all of the facilities on these weekends. Getting the schedules aligned with all the series is the challenge. And then probably the most unthanked, most underrated asset that all of motorsports have are the hourly event workers. None of these events happen without the people parking the cars, working the concession stands, taking the tickets. Thousands of people who do thankless jobs in sometimes very difficult conditions, 100 degrees or the rain. Those are the people that really make these events happen. We might have 7,000 or 8,000 people working on a cup weekend. So finding people to staff all these events simultaneously, and then there's frankly not a lot of markets that can hold the infrastructure of the number of people in hotel rooms and things to have all these events going on the same time. And then everybody kind of wants their spotlight too. Nobody wants to play second fiddle to anybody else. So somebody is going to be top dog. And when the NHRA comes to town, they want to be the top dog at ZMAX Dragway or at Thunder Valley or out at Sonoma. They don't necessarily want to be the second tier in the shadow of IndyCar or NASCAR. So I think as we saw it at Indianapolis, they've been able to do an IndyCar, NASCAR, back-to-back weekend. Maybe there's some opportunities there. We do events at our dirt tracks, usually on the Friday nights or Saturday nights where we have the Cup racing in town. But to get at the top level, I think IMSA is an interesting possibility as we go forward, especially at the Roval, and looking for more opportunities there. So I love the big thinking. How do we make these events a celebration of the motorsports lifestyle? I think is really where we're going to be heading. So celebrating car culture, merging the auto fairs with the races, and people who love cars and people who love car lifestyles is something I think you're going to see a lot more focus on. But love the idea, love the thinking behind it.
Mike, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you sitting in there for Marcus. Excellent job, man. Really appreciate your time. And again, just keep up the great work over there at the SMI and all your tracks around the country. You guys have had a phenomenal run of it right now, and I can't wait to go to North Wilkesboro.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.